jump on? Did you come on, Tina?
Yep,
Oh, there you are. You going to come on camera?
I sure am.
All righty. We're just waiting for Tracy. I'm not sure why she hasn't popped in.
Okay.
So
what's the format for today? I have zero information.
that's because we like to keep our guests in the dark. We just kind of go wherever we go. There is no format. That's why you have no, agenda.
Like, I'm doing what? When? Okay. So
that's okay. That we like off the cuff. If you can't do off the cuff, you're not our people.
No.
It doesn't belong on Marketing Monday Mixer, that's for sure.
We can definitely improv, that's for sure.
Okay, let me take us live on Facebook. I can hear Tom. That's okay. We like Tom.
He's supposed to be wrapped up in 2 minutes, so.
Live on Facebook. Why didn't it go to live on Facebook? Wait a minute. Let me do something here. I cannot minimize Zoom. Okay, Facebook. Hold on. Okay, I like that I can't minimize. All right. It's being weird, guys.
Oh, you can't minimize while you're recording.
We always record. Share on a page we manage. It's going to be difficult. Facebook basically doesn't like me.
Facebook is doing something weird with me. I've been getting absolutely zero responses on anything I post the last month. It's really weird.
Ooh, you're being ghosted. That's a thing.
Yeah, it's strange.
The algorithm's ghosting you.
That's what I think.
Okay, the incredible.
So I'm just trying to see where we are time-wise.
Tina Dietz.
Several emails to catch up on today. I will get this out so you have it.
Dietz. Is it DEI or DIE?
IE.
IE. I before E, except after. Never mind. I'm making up my own grammar rules. Publishing and audiobooks. Okay, title.
So this isn't public, right?
It is public. It is
public. Where's it going live to?
It's going live on Marketing Monday Mixer. And let's see, there it goes. All right. Do you want to start us off, Tracy, while I get this?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Marketing Monday Mixer. It's Monday, and I'm kind of exhausted, Juliet, to be honest with you. I worked through the weekend. I gave a presentation. We had the Utah Podcast Summit, and I was so hoping I was actually just going to get to go to Utah.
I know.
Because I was hoping I was going to visit you.
I know, to come see my new place and visit. I'm kind of bummed too and I didn't go because you weren't here.
That's right. There you go. Well, it was virtual, so you didn't have to be in Utah to go. So I did that, and that was it took a whole lot of energy and exhaustion for doing an all-day event on Saturday. So I feel like I didn't get a weekend. So it's really hard to believe today's Monday.
I hear you. I actually detoxed this weekend, like out as little TV as possible, as little Facebook as possible, as little everything. I'm kind of tired of technology.
You're technologied out. Well, you know what? That's okay. I over-teched this weekend too, so I can relate to that.
Okay, so you teched enough for both.
Yeah, yeah. And so like, my normal downtime is to read, right? To read books,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't even want to do that. That's how bad it was this weekend. I was like, I didn't even have energy for that this weekend. So yeah, so I didn't get my normal like book a weekend read, probably 2 books a weekend read. That didn't happen this weekend. So I'll have to
Wow.
catch up next week.
I did a lot of audiobooks this weekend. So
Did you?
I
Oh, there's a
did.
segue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. You like that? There's a segue.
Yeah. So let's introduce, because we've got Tina Dietz on, and Tina is a audiobooks expert, and I'm so glad we're going to talk about that. But let's start with all of us here and just give a little, both of you really, because I'm sort of outside of this industry. But I would love to have both of you kind of just give us a little bit of background on, like, are books and audiobooks still relevant for business world anymore? Like, let's start there, because I think that's what we do here on Marketing Monday Mixer, is we sort of like, is this real? Is this working, or isn't it?
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Tina address the audiobooks in a minute. But yeah, so we had this run for a couple years where everybody, you go to some guru's event and they tell you, you need a book to establish yourself as an expert. And the truth, and what that did basically was make books irrelevant, because everybody had a book, but everybody didn't have a good book or an audience. So I think that books are very relevant if you, have an audience and you query that audience about what the right book is and write a really great book. What does that mean? That you write a book, you spend time writing the book the audience wants, you have it professionally edited, you work with a writing coach who can actually put together and help you get all the flack out, because there's a lot of TMI going on in books that people feel is authentic, but what it really is TMI and boring. And Tracy, you were saying somebody this weekend was a really boring
It is funny, because I had this conversation with my dad that I have had this thing my entire life, and I now realize that I got it from my dad. So I saw him on Sunday and we were talking about this, and he hands me this book and he goes, was this book yours, like when you were a kid? And like, it ended up on my shelf and I just read it. So in his retirement, he does nothing but catalog the books on his shelf and read them. So when he finds one he hasn't read before, he reads them. And so he pulls this out and he goes, it's a terrible book. And I go, well, then stop reading it, Dad. And he said, I can't stop reading it, because for the handful of times I gave up on a book because the beginning was like horrible or too hard, they ended up being the books I learned the most from. So he's like,
Wow.
so I'm going to, and so I was like, darn it, that's where I get it from. Because I never quit a book,
Yeah.
even when it's bad. There's a couple exceptions in my life, but that's for a whole nother story. And so I never quit a book. And the problem is that means that I've read a lot of really bad books.
Bad books. Yeah. Yeah. That's why when I was a mystery writer, I always killed somebody like in the first few pages, because you gotta
capture them.
So mine got worse as they went along in the story, but they started out really good with somebody getting bludgeoned to death or shot. So
right. And so often, so many of these books, they're the wrong book. You're right. They're written badly from the sort of process that they take. So it's all like, story vomit at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of them like that. And then there's the ones that are just so programmatically selling from chapter 1 that nobody wants to go
100%.
into the rest of it. Yeah, Tina,
Yeah.
Oh.
Tina does know that. And I love that. You say story vomit, I call it barf a book. Tina, what do you call it? You must have some.
I don't know. I just sit in the corner and rock, because it's just like, oh God, make it stop, please, make it stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad books are like bad webinars, where those webinars where people talk about themselves for a half an hour, give you 3 short facts, and then sell you for another 20 minutes.
There you go.
And
there you go.
Yeah. It follows the same kind of program. And, books have been some of my best friends since I've been 2 years old. And that's one of the reasons I'm in this world. And, it's just the number one. Someone say, I'm sure you guys get asked a lot of the same questions that I do. And, well, what should I do? What kind of book should I write? And it's, just don't suck. Just don't suck at anything you do. Choose consciously not to suck at it as much as possible. Or at least if you're going to suck at first, because a lot of us do until we, consciously improve so that you do get better as quickly as possible, and bring people around you so that you don't have to make all those same mistakes. You don't have to go through all that learning curve, and the pain is optional. It really is.
So
The
what
pain
Tina
really is.
so what Tina just said was Juliet quit golf. No. So I want to share over here. Scott Carson.
That's different.
Scott Carson just said he shared a hashtag with us. Bad books blow. We should go grab that URL. I love that.
That is awesome. Well, the thing is that though, I think that we're all do see that there is still some validity to writing some books, right? There's a place for it. There's a type of book that's working. Like, what are you seeing, Juliet and Tina?
So I'm going to let Tina go since I monopolized her time last time.
Oh, no, it's all good. I think that it really has a lot to do with the depth of content and your ability to tell a story more than it has to do with the type of book that you write. I definitely think audiences have gotten sensitive to books that read like an infomercial, or that, they're books that, books can be really short. Like Amazon has entire sections that are just short reads. But if those short reads really need to be good short reads, they need to be highly educational or highly informative of some kind, or deeply inspirational. So it really needs to be extremely well written. And this is what Julie was pointing to. And they also need to look like the covers in particular, because that don't judge a book by its cover is like, that's a myth. We're always going to judge a book by its cover. We can't not. And I know we get really sensitive to it because we're in the publishing industry, but you can spot a homemade cover like a million miles away. And it's just like, if you're a YouTuber and you need to spend time on the thumbnails, or you're a blogger and you have to spend time on your headline, you have to spend time and you have to, invest in a cover that makes sense. You really do.
Yes.
So for those of you Marketing Monday people who are out there listening and you hear me, I've said that, I don't know, about 1,000 times about your podcast cover art too. And so, so it is, it plays in almost every media consumption world where all you're looking at is a little thumbnail. You better get it right.
Right. So just to get catty here, it's like women who color their own hair. We can tell.
So now, you know what? I think we highly underestimate the great bottle jobs we have out there.
I don't know.
But I will trade it in for being back in a salon anytime. My salons have not opened.
I know. I know. You're kind of you're
I'm in
hindered by
California, guys. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so the books. Here's what I love about what Tina's doing with the audiobooks is if you're published by a traditional publisher, most of the time you have a companion audiobook. And one of the raps about self-published books is that, you don't have that professional machine behind you. You haven't been chosen. And I think that audiobook lends to not only your credibility as a person, but you're willing to go out there and do what it takes to be professional in the book world. So I don't know. What do you think, Tina? Did I make that up, or is that true?
No, it is kind of the icing on the cake. And again, it goes to, anybody can go out and talk their book into a microphone. Is Audible going to accept it? Maybe. It's really picky. The audio process is really picky. Podcasting is, you have to have really high quality audio for podcasting, but audiobooks has a lot of other rules that
have a lot of rules, by the way. We checked them all out technically. Yeah, there's a lot of rules about how you level your sounds, how you record it to begin with matters more, right? And Tina knows this stuff because, this is what she does with her company, but it is so specific, and you have to think about the listening experience. Amazon's being very controlling about it. Apple does not. They allow an openness to it, which is why so many podcasts don't last, because when you can't stand to listen to it anymore, you will quit the show.
Oh, no, when you got bad audio or really grating voice, or
but God if you forbid, bought the book, you're going to be pissed at Amazon, right? So Amazon, you can understand why audiobooks and are being controlled.
They have to be controlled a certain way.
But it's not just the quality in the quality of your voice. There are so many things when you have really high quality equipment for this that you hear, like breathing. Like that is I'm
Oh,
serious,
yeah.
you guys. I tried to do my
Yeah,
own, my very
loud
first book, I
breathing.
tried to do my own, and like that gulp, because I'm not a trained voice professional and they know
Mhm.
how to do these. One of the worst experiences I ever had with an audiobook, and I'm just going to pick on her because she's dead, is Jackie Collins. She read one of the characters in one of her books and she had a lisp. And it
Ooh.
was
This is
so
why she should have stayed a writer.
annoying. That's why you should be a writer and let other people act out your book. But I couldn't even listen till the end. It was just awful. So you have to be at that point when when you work with someone like Tina, being realistic about how your voice is, how you can put this together. And for most podcasters, they know how to do it. Other people, you've got to consider, can I do this, or should I hire talent? How do you determine that, Tina? How do you determine, like, I'm a good fit or I'm not a good fit for this?
For your own narration. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of factors. We work, exclusively with nonfiction. So we do work with people who are building their platforms. A lot of them are podcasters, speakers, trainers, consultants, all kinds of subject matter experts. And a lot of them make the assumption that because they do a fair amount of public speaking, that they'll be able to transfer those skills super easily to audiobook narration. But there's a few things that we have to consider. One is, do you have the desire to spend that amount of time in recording, or is your time better spent somewhere else? Because the truth of the matter is on the sales side of things, we don't necessarily see a big difference in author narrated versus professionally narrated books if it's the right narrator. That's a whole other topic we can get into.
Yeah, I bet that's a whole other
That's
topic.
a whole other thing, right? Because I mean, I've even seen people who have signed away their audio rights, which happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't even realize they've signed away their audio rights with a publisher. And then a year or two later, they'll go to, hey, maybe I should do an audiobook. And they'll find out that the publisher already did an audiobook. They got no creative input. They're getting almost no royalties from it. And they have picked a crappy narrator because they've cheaped out on the production, or they were just hiring, Bob's daughter next door who is just getting started with voice acting and wanted to give it a shot. So there's all kinds of factors that go into that.
But, I want to mention, because you said that. So the thing about, because I bring the podcaster perspective here, the thing about it is, and this was a really interesting perspective brought to me by Mike Michalowicz when I interviewed him on my show.
Mike.
I know, don't we love him? Profit First,
Yes.
Clockwork. He still has such great books out there. And I was recommended to me that I listen to the audiobook of his. And normally I would buy the regular book. I mean, that's just my normal go-to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would buy the Kindle book. And so, but whoever it was recommended said, you have to get the audiobook version. So it was probably Julia. No. No, but they said that. And I was like, okay, I'll do that just because. And because he's a podcaster, I can see why it was working for him, because his humor comes across that when you read it, he has this kind of sarcastic wit that, like, I don't think would have come across if I had heard somebody else narrating it. And then if I had gone to his podcast and listened, I'd be like, there's a disconnect here. Like, it's not the same pace. And that's where I think he made a smart choice.
He did make a smart choice. And this is one of those things that if you are already a podcaster and you are used to speaking to, podcasting is an intimate experience. Audiobooks are an intimate experience. Public speaking from a stage can also be an intimate experience, but it is a different voice that you use. And you can't use the same voice for podcasting and audiobooks that you use when you're on a stage. And so if you're used to having that intimate experience, that one-on-one instead of one-to-many, then you are in a much better position to narrate your own audiobook. And you're also used to being in front of a microphone, having an equipment set up. You have your ear is a bit more trained. So all of those tend to fall into the category of, yes, this is going to be a good situation. But we don't leave our authors to narrate on their own. We actually have live directors through the entire audiobook process. So you're not trying to record and read and manage your equipment and all these things at the same time, because that's like being a one-man band. It's bad.
Okay. So I just was a one-man band this weekend doing my own like highly graphic presentation this weekend for the Utah podcast summit with all these graphics flying in. I'm doing it. I can't, I'm trying to make sure the recording is, I'm trying to make sure the slides are advancing because they're not slides, right? The graphics are like flying in. And I can tell you it was the most like my brain hurt afterwards. I think I did it successfully, but that is not one of those things you should do yourself.
Right. Exactly. And this is long form, right? You're talking about recording 2-3 hours at a time. Different than even what we're doing here. Like we're all like, yeah, woohoo, we're like doing all the things here. We'll be done in 15 minutes and we can go and, have a cocktail and whatever. But audiobooks, you're in a certain distance from the mic and you're talking and you're reading and you're really trying to perform and you're getting that even breath as you're doing and really pacing yourself, and which is usually a slower pace than your normal speaking voice, all of these things. And it's way more challenging than people realize that it is. And it's also a really great payoff because it's a fantastic set of skills.
Yeah. So. Oh, I'm so I so want to challenge myself, but I keep thinking, God, that's like an 8 hours of time minimum. Like I was like, for me, it's probably like 12 hours because I got to slow myself down. Like, I'm like, it's not going to be good. So I don't know. It's like, but this is a daunting decision back here. And so thank goodness we have got such great people to support. But, here's the interesting stat that I want you to share with us, Tina. And, we aren't seeing read through. Julia, do you have any idea what the kind of percentage of read through on books are nowadays on Kindle books, let's say?
I have no idea.
But I think it's really low. Like I want to say it's something like a 30% average or something. That's what I think I read somewhere. And at least podcasts are listened to. It's like a 70% listen through rate, right? But Audibles have a great listen through rate. What is it, Tina? I think you mentioned it to me at one point.
The average audiobook listener finishes 12 audiobooks a year.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
And the average reader these are US stats. The average reader finishes 1 book a year.
The other thing is that aren't you more likely to finish an audiobook? I think they have a much higher finish rate than I think was what Tracy was saying.
Yeah, they actually read more through the book.
Yeah, they read more through the book.
No, we do tend to find that because when somebody's into an audiobook, they do tend to finish it. And those are completion rates. Those aren't just purchase rates. Mm-hmm. So that's the stat that I'm familiar with, is that they'll finish 12 books a year, but the average American reader will only finish 1 book a year.
That's great.
So that's
I'm feeling like a real big overachiever here, Julia.
You are
so
a real
should
big
you.
overachiever.
I know. Yeah. I go through probably 5 to 6 audiobooks a month. Yeah. I'm a big audio listener. What is that? 72 books a year?
That's a lot of books.
And I'm like 2 to 3 books a week. So that's my average. So and that's slow for me.
But she reads. She actually reads. Paul has a question here. He wants to know how much studio time does it usually take per page or per 1,000 words?
Okay, I'll give you a formula. So the formula that we often use in audiobooks, it is based on word count. And because number of words on a page can vary tremendously. So we average out 10,000 words equals about 1 hour of audio. So that's the equation.
And that's what we find on podcasts too. So that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about studio time, you want to double or triple that. Usually triple is safe. So let's say you've got a 30,000 word book. You can expect to spend about 9 hours in recording time.
Wow. That's a lot of time.
It is a lot of time.
And most people can't do more than 2 hours at a shot. Even professionals don't do more than 2 hours at a shot. And that is with a director. So if you are trying to do it on your own, you will find that 3 hour mark will be longer.
Wow.
Because you will make a lot more mistakes, and it's unlikely that you know how to do things that are industry standards, like what's called punch and roll recording. And a lot of folks will go back and re-listen to themselves and not like their performance because they're so focused on the recording and not making a mistake that you're not natural. And that's where we run into most of the issues with people who have tried to do self-narration on their own, is that their technical is completely wrong or their performance is really wooden.
Yeah. So, you know, this is really so interesting that we're getting into a little bit of the technical side of things, but I want to take it a little bit back again and say,
Yeah.
you know, I think we all have to ask ourselves why. Like, is the book, is the audible, is it the right for our audience? And for, I can say for podcasters, you're already in that audio audience. So, I mean, you have that audio connection with your audience. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way, right?
Yeah.
But I think everyone has to sit back and say, is this the right thing for my business and for the way I'm going to market this and for how I'm going to get it out? Because otherwise we're not going to do what Juliet recommends. We're never going to profit from the thing.
Right.
And whether the profit is in your normal business or in actual sales of the book. So.
No, that's true. And you know, if you're already podcasting, then content can be repurposed pretty much all the same ways that your podcast content can be repurposed. And you know, with audiograms, with social media, with you know, video book trailer using the audiobook, with you know, all different kinds of things. And I always tell this to my my authors: take your 5-minute retail sample, and when you're a guest on podcasts, ask the host of the podcast if they'd like the 5-minute retail sample to embed in the show notes, and then the host of that show can use a link, usually an Amazon affiliate link of their own, back to that guest's book on Amazon, and then it's medium matching. You're matching audio to audio. I mean, podcast listeners are far more likely to be audiobook listeners because they're used to listening to audio. They like listening to audio. It's their preference. So it increases your chances.
No, that's so true. I'm so glad you mentioned that match to the medium. You know, the other thing that I just keep thinking about is really thinking about that we also need all these multimedia opportunities, right? So that's where I think it sort of falls into my choices of, I want to be seen, heard, and found everywhere, because I don't just, I mean, my clients are speakers, authors, like there are all these things. So there are readers within there are listeners within there are viewers within there. So I like to have that opportunity. So I think it's leaving opportunity on the table if we're not taking our books all the way through the whole process. And we're not creating the full medium types.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also too, you know, you have to remember your audience. There are 3 different types of learning modality. So, you know, some people are going to learn from that audio. Others are going to learn from that visual in their hands. So you're actually taking what you teach and providing multiple experiences with it, where, you know, people can experience more of you that they wouldn't necessarily if you were just on video or just on a podcast, or, you know, it gives you some visibility as well as having a low barrier product that they can find out more about you. I think that's the biggest plus of having a book.
So one of the thing I want to touch before we go, because you guys work with a lot of pros, what are you seeing that, you know, Tina mentioned earlier that there's some contracts where you don't even realize you gave your Audible rights away, like your audiobook rights away. Like, what are we seeing is happening with some of these book contracts with publishers big and small? Juliet, let me start with you, because I know that you are in people's contracts a lot.
Yeah, so I usually don't deal with a lot of traditional. I was just on a call before we jumped on with a hybrid publisher that one of my clients is using, and we're doing the marketing. And we talked about, you know, do we want to do an audiobook?
Define hybrid publisher for the audience, because some of us aren't published. We don't know what that is.
So a hybrid publisher is someone who can get in books. Let me back up. Most self-published books do not make it into bookstores. So they don't make it into the Ingram catalog. Buyers don't see the visibility. A lot of times they question the quality of a self-published book. A hybrid publisher spends a little bit more time with you. It's sort of a step between a traditional publisher and a self-published book, because they have the ability, if it's a good book and they look very highly at quality, to get you in some of those bookstores, to get you in institutionalized books, so colleges, places like that, as opposed to just a self-publishing contract. I hope that made sense.
No, that did. So then what are you seeing at that hybrid publisher level that is sometimes problematic for you having full rights to everything or being able to utilize it?
Well, with the hybrid, you usually have full rights. So with a traditional publisher, they own the rights to your book. That's where Tina's talking about you can get in trouble, where they will sign your rights away. And I ran into this with many years ago. I interviewed Dory Clark, And when I listened to her books before the interview, her first one was narrated by someone else. And I said, why didn't you narrate it yourself? And that's exactly what she said. In my second contract, I learned and I was able to negotiate my, me narrating my own book in. And there was
Or
a
at least
huge
choosing who you narrate.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, and there was a huge difference between the two. She's an amazing writer and intellect, but the first book just wasn't her peppy self. So you see it a lot in the traditional contracts. The hybrid, you own your own rights most of the time, and you can choose that audio experience. The self-publishing, you absolutely own your own right, but most people will do self-publishing without regard. They're more interested in the price point a lot of times, and adding that audio in isn't something that they necessarily even think about. So it's a lot of difference there.
And all the traditional audio publishers operate the same way as traditional book publishers. They take your, and they make you pay up front. So they make you pay up front, they own your stuff, and you don't get a lot of creative control. So that's
Right.
one of the reasons we started. I wasn't going to do audiobook services for my company. I mean, I've been building businesses for decades. And when I hit upon this idea, it was really, I was planning on partnering with someone, and I secret shopped 30 different audiobook publishers. And I just got so offended that I got that entrepreneurial seizure like we do. And I said, I think I can do this better.
Well, we're glad you did, Tina, because you're right about it. It's the same thing, because in a way, Juliet and I have secret shopped a lot of self-publishing helpers out there, and there's a whole bunch of different problems with them as well, right?
Yeah,
and so that's where you run into these issues of, you didn't realize that you by publishing through this group, you precluded your rights to actually be in a store later.
Right. Kate's saying that here, her comment is, I would like to know how to negotiate a contract. Kate, your best option is to read it thoroughly and spend the money to consult with someone who knows what you're talking about. Before I started my own company, I shopped for a contract, and I got one that when my attorney looked at it, I was paying them $4,000 to publish, and they had the audacity to put in the contract that if my book went to movie or television or some other methodology where I was going to make money, that they got 50% of whatever that was. So think about that. I'm reading the contract and I'm like, really? If they make a series out of my mystery novel, these guys get 50%? That's insane. So spend some time talking to, if somebody gives you a contract, spend some time talking about who knows the publishing industry about what that contract is really talking about. So, because you can really find yourself losing things.
And Kate, take advantage of Juliet. I mean, she's cared. She negotiates and talks with authors all the time about their options, so they can think through what the best process is. So you can reach out to her right here and talk to her, because she is the expert on many, many different types of people. You've picked up the pieces for them after the fact a lot of times.
Yes, I have. And Kate actually wanted to know about children's publishing, and I have a friend who has her own children's.
It's a different world, so
it's totally different. It's very, very, very different. But you probably run into the same thing, Tina, with the audio contracts. People don't realize when they bring you a book that they've signed their rights away, and you can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my first questions is, are you under contract with a publisher? And, a lot of the folks that I work with are, Juliet, like yourself, who are advocates where, we act as advocates for our authors, but there's people who come to us from traditional publishers, or people who thought they were working with non-traditional publishers, but it turns out they're acting like traditional publishers. And just reading those contracts through, it's not like I agree to the terms and conditions when you sign up for, Facebook. Nobody really reads all those terms and conditions, but you always want to read those contracts.
Oh my gosh,
Reading
please read them.
Is different. That is a different thing. And if you don't understand anything in there, or anything is not crystal clear, or anything is in weird legalese, it's worth dropping a couple $100 to talk with a lawyer or a specialist who knows how to interpret those documents.
Yeah. Oh, such good advice, ladies. I'm so glad we're working on this. So I have to tell everybody something. So we're actually going to do a masterclass on this pod to publish, not tomorrow, Tuesday, but the week from Tuesday. So that is Tuesday, getting the date here, Tuesday, June 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Mountain time. And we're going to really go through some of the steps and things you need to consider for publishing, for audiobooks, and for what that means for podcasters. So we're really focusing it on the pod to publish model, we're calling it. And so we're going to do a masterclass on this. And this is a series of masterclasses I'm doing. They're open to the public. There's nothing, you don't have to worry about it. We'll probably just resync it into the Marketing Monday Mixer Facebook group. We'll reshare it in there. Maybe Juliet can do a watch party, whatever you guys want to that, because we want to make sure you get the information out there. We're really doing it, number one, for my clients, because many of them have these questions and have a lot of issues and are trying to decide what they should do on the publishing side, myself included. And so, you look at that and we're really trying to pull this together as like, how do I make some smart choices along the way? And is this of value to me? So that's what the goal of our masterclass is, to determine, for you to come out of it knowing this is a value to me, or it's not a value to me, or I have some questions I need to go answer. Right? I need to go meditate on, I need to go figure out, I need to go brainstorm on, whatever it is, you're going to need to go figure out your answer, right? And before you start the process. We're not here to sell you something. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get you to think about this. And if it's right for you and ready for you, then obviously we just got some experts here already who are ready to help you if you need them. So
we do. Paul says here, I refuse to do business with a company that offers a one-sided contract with tricky clauses. If they are willing or even
eager.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I'm blind, to take advantage of a novice.
Of a novice.
It was a novice, a novica. I just made up a new word. I don't trust them to be fair with me.
I agree with that, Paul. That is so true. Like what that always happens when someone tries to send me a non-disclosure agreement and it's not mutual. That's it. I'm done. It's just, there isn't a point in this world where there isn't an even exchange of information. So that's a deal breaker for me as well.
Yeah, it is. And, you really have to be careful with the publishing industry, especially the self-publishing industry. That was one of the first things I saw before I'm like Tina, like I got this, oh my God, I can do better. I can serve these people better, is the hidden costs that they put into these, the marking up on the books of the back end, so they're very expensive. Think about self-publishing in the terms that you just paid someone to create your book, to publish your book, and then on the back end, they're taking a piece of your royalties. That's literally like going to Kinko's and saying, hey, Kinko's, will you design a business card for me? And then they hand you the box of 100 and they go, oh, by the way, Tracy, did I mention that every time you get business from this, you have to give me 50% of it? Right after you've paid for the cards and the design. That's exactly what a lot of these publishing companies do.
Maybe that's why Kinko's is out of business.
Are they?
I think they got bought out by FedEx office.
I didn't even know that. But
it's a bad business model, right? It should be.
Yeah. And Kinko's did not do that. But imagine I was using them as.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a horrible business model.
Well, and it's the same thing in the podcasting world. Like, I cannot stand that you would go into something like Anchor, and Anchor's going to say, if you record on our service, if you record using our service, you don't own the rights to your audio. We get to keep it. You don't get it back. That's insane. That's insane to me. That's just all kinds of wrong. And so that's why our hosting platform, everything that we do is everything is owned by you. We're being right up front about it. There's none of this like, who owns the copyright to the graphics? No, it's like right up front there. This is all yours because it's your mind share. Yeah. And so I can't stand that. It's like my kind of principles on that side too. So glad you brought that up, Paul, because that is such a good point.
Yeah.
So,
well, my husband would say it another way. He'd say, don't try to suck and blow at the same time.
Oh, I just became the tame one on the show. Thank you. Like, I'm the one saying stuff like that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, ladies, I'm so glad we all got together to talk a little bit about this, and I'm really excited for our masterclass next week because I know the three of us we're like methodical about our steps and our whys and going about our presentations and making sure that people really get it and understand what's of value so that they can find it for themselves. So I'm looking forward to that little masterclass partnership with the two of you. So I can't wait for that. And then next Monday we're going to be back with right size messaging marketing. So this is the thing. It's like, I think we're cramming too much information into places. Like, are some of our books too long? We were just talking about that, but maybe some of our tweets are too long. Let's be really thinking about if we're using the right size for things.
Isn't there a limit on your tweet size?
Oh yeah, but then you do ... and continue.
Can I show you guys something? Can I share?
Yeah.
Hold on.
So that's what we're going to talk about next week. So right size marketing, right size messaging, really.
Okay.
I think that's really important when we're also looking to repurpose things as well, because right size on one platform isn't right for the other. What is that?
I got my proof. Well, you can see it has some work.
Look at it.
Oh, I love it.
And it's just the right size. So really quick read.
I love it.
Yes,
that's
it's called
perfect.
Pitch Slapped, so it fits right in with right size messaging.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we're talking about those long lead pages like that. That's like, we got to talk about that. I'm so tired of those. I can't even tell you, like
I'm so over that.
the 10,000 word page.
Yeah, I have short ones now with lots of buttons instead. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to talk about that next week. And don't forget, next Tuesday, we will be there doing the masterclass. So thanks everyone for listening to Marketing Monday Mixer.
Yes, Kate, reach out to me on Facebook and friend me, and I'll send you the info for Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too.